What's going on, everybody? Before we get into our review, just want to share our deepest sympathies and condolences to the victims of the recent California wildfires. This is a very troubling time for everyone living in that area. I hope everyone is getting to safety. I hope everyone is okay. And if you are within that area, please evacuate because it is a very dangerous situation. And we at Nerd Talk support everyone who has been inconvenienced by this terrible tragedy. And if you would like to donate, there are several links down below that you can donate to the cause. And without further ado, let's get into the video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the official Nerd Talk channel. My name is Tyler, aka My Name is joined by my co-host Kevin. We are back for another video for you guys, and today we are giving you guys a video review on Creature Commandos Season 1. The first entry into the DCU has finally concluded and arrived and is in full I don't know. It's all there now, so you can go watch it. So I wanted to do this for you guys because truthfully, I don't know if Alex is gonna be able to watch the whole thing before Wednesday. If somehow I want to hopefully get this out by Tuesday. If he watches it, then we'll briefly talk about it Wednesday on our stream for the Invisible Man. But wanted to kind of do this so we can not be limited on time and just talk about it. It's big deal. First entry in the DCU. I'm very excited. So I was very excited for this because, as I said, it's the first entry in the DCU. It's a big deal because it's DC's kind of last hurrah, their last swan song, if you will, to where had everything with the DCEU and it was a disaster to say the least, especially their last year. It was just horrible. So, this is kind of their last chance to get in good faith with people. And I myself, while I wasn't against it, found it a bit odd that this was the first thing we were getting. I
Technically, now that everything is canon, Suicide Squad was the first one.
and if that's your first entry, then by all means, I'm not going to complain because that's peak. But this is really like the first new thing that's like, no, this is the kickoff to it. And I was like, okay. I kind of interpreted it as he's labeling this first saga, if you will, as gods and monsters. We're getting gods with Superman later this year, and monsters is this. I was like, that kind of makes sense. I wish we had gotten the god part first, but we're getting that in July, and I can't complain. But Creature Commandos itself, this was basically sold to us as Suicide Squad with monsters, and after seeing it, it's Suicide Squad with monsters, basically. So, as for my thoughts on the show as a whole, I think the show is good. It's good. I enjoyed it. Did I watch it week to week? No. I for some reason I never really felt the obligation to, and maybe it's because people weren't really talking about it after the first week. I feel like it maybe the second week because there's a flashback that got everyone talking, or not a flashback. It's like a vision that got everybody talking. But beyond that, I feel like nobody was really talking about this show. And so I was kind of just like, it doesn't feel like nothing major's happening. So I'm not going to really waste my time, Well, I don't want to say waste my time. It makes it sound like the show is bad. But, go out of my way to watch it week to week. I don't know. So I basically binged it all the day before the finale. And then I watched the finale when it came out. But I enjoyed my time with it. What are your thoughts on the show before we get into the specifics?
Well, as the first entry, this is a very odd first entry, so I wasn't really all that into it as far as like, yeah, this is the first one. But I guess with all the mess going on, and you gotta start with something. I thought this was very good. I think that, um, not getting into specifics, I thought the story was really well done. I thought that the characters were very compelling. There is one little nitpick, not really nitpick, but like one negative that I have that could have taken over the top. I don't know if that required an extra episode or two, but other than that, I thought everything else was like really well done as far as like char- character work, plot lines, and just introducing us to James Gunn's vision of the DCU. Obviously, Superman will be the big theatrical hoorah of that message, but just starting off, I think this is a good start.
Yeah. So I think first of all, the animation is very good. I think it reminded me a lot of the Harley Quinn show, and that show has very good animation too. I think the animation works, especially with the violence. That the show is very violent. If you like the Suicide Squad, you should not have a problem with that because this show is very violent. Um, I would say I enjoyed the characters for the most part. I just my main gripe is that like I didn't really gravitate to them the way I did like the characters of the Suicide Squad, and not to compare it to the Suicide Squad, but it's just it none of them really like grabbed me like that. So the way he goes about doing their backstories, I liked that to where like he would sprinkle them throughout specific episodes. I was fine with that. I would say the best backstory that we got was probably Weasel. That's not even a question. Like GI Robots was cool too, but Weasel's was very good. Um, I like these characters for what they are. I think some of them stand out more than the others. So, like I just mentioned, GI Robot I thought was pretty cool. Weasel was interesting, although he's basically the same character as he was in the Suicide Squad, just that they give him more backstory, so you kind of care for him, even though he acts the exact same. Nina, the fish, I don't know what her character name would be, but Nina, the fish lady, um, I liked her probably the most because she's like one of the more genuine people in that crew, and when her where her fate goes, I was kind of disappointed by. But the bride is okay. She has standout moments in the show, but there was never really a point to where I was like super invested in her. I was like, she's cool. She has a great look. Like I like the way they envision the Bride of Frankenstein in the DCU, which I think is pretty cool how they do that. Um, but I don't know. There was never really a moment where I was like super invested in these characters, other than Nina, to be honest. Cause like she's like the most down to earth person. Like Weasel, we get this amazing backstory for, but it's like, okay, I love your backstory, but eh, I don't know. The action is very good. The action is very good when it goes down, which is pretty much every episode. There's an action sequence of some sort. It's very good. I think
I
the
hold,
go ahead.
sorry, the I very much love the animation. I know James Gunn is gonna sprinkle in different types of animations as far as like this DCU. Like we know the dynamic duo is gonna get an interesting, different animation style, but I hope that for most of the DCU products that we're gonna get, the animation kind of sticks like this, where we get this art style, this animation style. I hope it stays consistent enough. Like if you want to venture out, that's fine. I just hope that this animation is very good, and I hope that this animation team gets to stick around a lot longer and beyond Creature Commandos. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, it got renewed for a season two, so they have to stick around.
Oh yeah.
Um, the voice work here I thought was pretty good, and this is the interesting part because for those who don't know, these characters will be reprised by the same people in live action. Where these people are going to show up in live action, I have no idea.
Other than one,
Um,
we saw.
yeah. Frank Grillo plays Rick Flag Senior in this show, and he will be in Superman Legacy. And I listen. I love Frank Grillo. I do. He's great. And I'm excited that he's gonna be in the DCU, even the or DCU, even though he's kind of playing the same character he was playing in the MCU to a point. He's not gonna be a villain, but um so we had Indira Varma as the Bride of Frankenstein. I thought she was good. Sean Gunn does GI Robot and Weasel. So that's great. Sean Gunn is always great at what he does. Alan Tudyk, he does the fire guy. I know I have his name here. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the green fire dude. He was cool. And then Zoe Chow plays Nina. I thought she was great. David Harbour does Frankenstein, which I didn't know David Harbour was in this show until his episode. I was like, oh wow. Um,
You hear the voice and you're just like, yeah, that's him.
yeah, it's great. We're gonna get David Harbour in the MCU and the DCU pretty much at the same time. Um, and I think he does good as Frankenstein. As for the character of Frankenstein himself, his setup was cool, and I was interested in the whole thing of him going after the bride because he was seeking her. But where that goes, without spoilers, I was kind of just like, we're gonna get more of this, really?
I
Okay.
think that'll be not a main focus, but it'll probably get a more heightened focus in season two because if we're gonna stick with the same amount of episodes, I don't think that we're gonna waste more time with backstories. Like
No.
we got through all of them. You know, without spoilers, we'll probably get a couple more, but like nothing beyond what we got in this show. Um, which is one of my little complaints. I felt like while the backstories were good, there were two things that I felt like they could have done better. One is that aside from a few of them, aside from Bride, Nina, GI Robot, I think comes to mind specifically. The rest weren't really like tying it into the main story overall. You know, like those three when they were getting their backstories, it felt seamless within the story. But the rest, while they were very good, they didn't really fit with the story all that well. Frankenstein was probably the closest we got, but even then, it was kind of just like sprinkled in here and there. Weasel, as amazing as his backstory was, it was kind of just serving a little side plot that never got touched um, through the rest of the show. Dr. Phosphorus, again, it was just kind of like a character moment for him. So it was just kind of just like, yeah, we need his backstory, so we kind of just need to throw it in there. And I think that's about it as far as backstories. The three I mentioned were very well done fitting into the story. And then because of that, we didn't get more on the whole what turned out to be a mystery show when it comes with Princess Ilana. So I felt like the larger story, the main plot line, could have been done a little bit better, or a lot better. I think that could have been serviced by another episode. If we get another episode, I think a lot of that will be fixed. But other than that, like I don't think it was a big problem. It's just that thing that, if we got another episode or it was handled a lot better in the 7 episodes, I think it would have taken itself over the top as like a very, very great show. Um,
Yeah. So going into the story, this is kind of one of my issues with the show. I don't hate the story. I think that the concept of the story works fine, but I kind of feel like they do a little bit too much back and forth of, oh no, it's true. Oh no, it's not true. Oh no, it is true. They're telling the truth. Oh no, they're not. I was kind of just like, at a point, I was like, what the fuck is happening? It is like, are they supposed to kill this lady or not? I don't know. It kind of just got lost in the shuffle for me, and it wasn't until the final seconds of the finale I was like, oh, okay, that's what was going on. All right, cool. Um, and I was kind
yeah,
of disappointed. They show this vision for the villain, and I was like, I want to see that. That looks cool. And I was kind of excited that we were gonna see some variation of that, but we just don't. They kind of just throw it away before it ends. I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
I get, I get what they were going for. You don't want that cataclysmic event to happen, and I get that they're trying to make it so that these monsters aren't really in the know. So because of that, we're not supposed to be in the know. I just felt like as if they're going to go back and forth like this, we're not really focusing on the Creature Commandos all that much to the point where I'm just like, we could have gotten more from Princess Ilana of being like, what's her deal? What's going on with her?
Uh,
You know, Even if
Uh,
we're not gonna get the larger picture from that vision, I would at least like to see, yeah, she's a threat, or like, is she a threat? Is she not a threat? I just think that there could have been more service done for that.
my other issue with this show is the humor. James Gunn is someone that normally hits with humor, but there are several times where he will take something
He's a good,
and drag it the fuck out to the point where I'm like, all right
especially in the beginning of
already.
episodes. That was
Listen, some of the I thought the show was mostly funny, but there are parts of the show where I'm just like, oh, that's that Peacemaker shit, bro. Come on. Um,
he's a good
there's
gimmick guy. That's what I like to call it. He's a good like quick gimmick guy. There's like,
yeah,
oh, quick, fast jokes are like, all right, they're hilarious in the moment, even if they happen in succession. But if you take a joke and you drag it on, that's when James Gunn kind of loses his comedic magic there.
yeah. And there are also parts of the show where I'm like, what is happening? I think the first episode was probably the worst of this season because I was just like, it felt very rushed, and they had that. I don't know if it was the first episode or the second episode. There's this elongated sex scene in the. I don't remember if it was the first or the second,
Second episode, I think.
but I was like, "What the fuck am I watching, bro? It's so ridiculously over the top." I'm just like, what is the point of any of this? You couldn't just like go forward in time and show that they had sex and just be like, yeah, they had sex. But why did we have to see it? You know, that was like 5 minutes that could have been given to another backstory. Like,
Or his backstory, if anything.
also I didn't mention it. Viola Davis is Amanda Waller again. Absolutely love Viola Davis. She is a fucking master of what she does, and um the fact that she is one of the few things that was carried over from the DCEU, I'm not complaining about that. She is amazing. I love Amanda Waller. Um, but yeah, the show as a whole, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fun time. I do think it was a mistake having this be the first thing that we saw from the DCU because I feel like this is something that should have served as like a third or fourth project. I feel like James Gunn really should have made it to where Superman and Supergirl and Lanterns were the first couple of projects that we saw to where it's like, no, this is what the DCU is going to be like. Because if someone was told, hey, we're getting a new DC universe, this is the first project, and you're seeing that elongated section, you're like, what the fuck is this? And then that same
um,
person proceeds to say, oh, by the way, the person that made this is doing a Superman movie. Um, okay.
yeah, that Superman Lois Lane scene is gonna.
Yeah.
I think as far as that point goes, I think it's kind of double-edged sword, you know, because in all technicalities, if we're gonna abide by James Gunn's rule of like if it's mentioned, it's canon. The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker were the first ones, the first projects. And they're disconnected from the DCU enough that you're just like, they're not really that. So I just think that you got to follow that story along, and we know that the Peacemaker season 2 is coming out this year. The Waller show is supposed to take place after that. We have Creature Commandos season 2, and I think it also fits in what James Gunn's whole vision with the DCU is. Where as far as like there are projects that's going to fit into the larger story of the DCU, and Creature Commandos will certainly play a part of that. Um, but not every project's going to signal that. They're all part of their own story that may or may not get connected. So it's a matter of just like, yeah, this is a weird first official project from DC Studios, but it's also kind of just like it's there, it's got to happen. I do agree, Superman probably would have fit better as the first one, but it's just like you don't want to go by what 2 whole years without a single DCU project. We didn't get anything last year until Creature Commandos, and we had to wait up until Superman. It's kind of a weird story timeline as far as like how things were releasing, but I don't think it's going to be detrimental. Like you said, not many people were watching this show, so I doubt that many people are going to make an issue out of that. They're just going to be like, "This came out before Superman? Oh shit! All right."
Yeah. And my also the last thing I want to add is a concern that I have is the fact that these characters are going to be appearing in live action as well. I have no idea where these people are going to show up again. And truth be told, I kind of don't really care if they show up again in live action. All the outside, like, I'm interested in the season 2 for the show, yeah, but where these people are going to show up in live action, I have no idea, and I honestly kind of don't care to see them in live action. That's just like Frank Grillo, fine, because he's tied. He's basically the new Rick Flag. I know he is Rick Flag, but he's the replacement of the old Rick Flag. But everyone else, I'm looking at this. I'm like, yeah, we saw Weasel in live action already, fine, but like, how on earth are Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein gonna look like? That's gonna look bizarre in live action. You know,
That's the
Phosphorus, I'm
hurdle
sure,
that
is gonna
that's
look
the hurdle
silly.
that James Gunn is gonna have to live up to. He wants this universe to feel alive. That all these projects can be connected to each other, but also don't have to be. Creature. You don't need to watch Creature Commandos for what the larger part of the story is. At least that's what I think is going to happen. So it's just like how you bring these characters in and out of animation. I'm interested to see how James Gunn does that. It's going to be weird when it does happen. It technically already started with Batman, but I just don't think that. I just think that it's going to be interesting to see how he does it. I think he has to pick the right projects of like, all right, we're going to bring Bride into this. I don't think this will be, oh, we're going to bring Creature Commandos into a live action movie because the first two seasons did so well. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is where these characters fit is going to depend on what these stories are going to bring out. I just hope that he does it right. It's not
I
just them, it goes with every other uh, hero. It's going to work with Superman, it's going to work with Lois, it's going to work with Supergirl. That's something that James Gunn is going to have to learn how to navigate.
I think that if we do see these characters in live action, I truthfully, I think we're gonna get another Suicide Squad movie. I don't know when, but I feel like they're definitely gonna make it. If the DCEU gets the traction that it needs to get, I don't see a reality where they don't greenlight another Suicide Squad movie. And when
Or if they show up in live action, they might show up in the Waller show.
is that live action or is that animated?
I believe maybe it's live action. I don't know. I think he said it was like their first official HBO type show, so I'm
Yeah.
going to assume it's live action.
Um, but I could see them doing a Suicide Squad movie where they bring in the Creature Commandos. I'm saying that because of the final scene of this season, but I could see them doing something like that. And if
We're
that's
gonna
the case,
merge the Suicide Squad and the Creature Commandos together.
I'm fine with that. It would defeat the purpose of the show to where Waller literally was like, "Oh, we only use the these people for something that even Task Force X can't do." It defeat the purpose of that. But I would not mind seeing, you know, that which this show kind of already did that because Weasel was in the Suicide Squad. So
Well, the part of the first episode was that, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but it's just like, oh, um, she got backlash from using humans to do these kind of things, like using them as their playthings and being like, "Go do a mission for me." So that's why she had to get a bunch of monsters because she's using the loophole of they're not really humans. So I was just like, who gives a fuck about them? So I can imagine she's gonna find another loophole that will allow her to get like Ratcatcher and all of our other characters from the Suicide Squad to join up with Creature Commandos. But we'll see.
yeah. But those are thoughts on Creature Commandos. Like I said, I enjoyed it very much. So I thought the show was a good introduction to the weird stuff that we're gonna get from the DCU. But I think Superman is gonna be the bold statement for this universe that it hopefully needs to be. You know.
It's not
But
only a beacon of hope for his universe; it's a beacon of hope for us.
yes.
We
Um,
got it. We need it.
but yeah, those are thoughts on Creature Commandos. If you guys have seen the show in its entirety, let us know down below what you guys thought about it. Feel free to comment anything from the show. It doesn't matter. Who cares? And did this make you more excited to see all the weird, wacky stuff from the DCU, or are you waiting for Superman to be the judge of what this universe is going to be? Let us know down below. Please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell for all notifications. Also follow our Instagram. The link is down below, and we will see you on the next one, everybody. Peace.